Shavua Tov, thank you for coming. The month of Shvat is sponsored by the Aron family, Leilu Nishmas Levi Ben Yosef, by the Silvers, Leilu Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael. Anonymously for the Rav Shlomo of Sarah Bas Rachel Fega, Malka Elka Bas Perel, Shoshana Yona Bas Edel, Hila Bat Ilana, and Yisrael Ben Adina. And by Joni and Moshe Pollack, Leilu Nishmas Shimon Ben Moshe, Tzvi Ben Mordechai, and Shira Rachma Bas Rav Alter Nasser Nata. The week is sponsored by Baruch and Sophia Bina Kerzner in memory of Sophia Bina's grandfather, Mikhail Ben Aaron, and by my in-laws, Ben and Barbara Selsky, in memory of my father-in-law's brother, who was just nifter, Yosef Ben Shlomo, whose Shloshim is this week. Tanish Masotzra B'tzur Chaim. And today is sponsored, right today, Sunday, February 8th, is sponsored by Tal Gilbo and Yaakov Steiner, welcoming our newest great-nephew, Neta, Ben, Elinor, and Dan. B'feh me'od, Yofi, Baruch Hashem. All right, so we're going to give these out. And we're going to continue exactly where we stopped last week, because we began speaking about something very, very lemaisa, very important, and very much to bring into tachlis. I just want to start off by just saying that really, I want to put a tefillah, a real strong davening, that the learning that we're doing here should really help us. It should be a very lemaisa learning that really, really connects us to what we're trying to, why we come to this shir, why we're learning this shir. Last week we began speaking about wondering whether it's important to have loving thoughts, to have thoughts of love for our children. Do you remember that? That's what we spoke about last time. Is there any avoda? Is there any type of work? Is there any importance of during the day, just having thoughts of love for our children? And we discussed that the neshama each neshama is clothed in 3 garments. It gets expressed, our souls get expressed through 3 ways: Machshava, dibur, and maaseh. Thought, speech, and action. That's how the Alter Rebbe explains the way that the Tanya explains how, I guess, the perfect picture of a person that's engaged in thinking Torah thoughts, speaking meaning learning Torah thoughts, and then acting with mitzvahs that completes like that produces like a full, complete picture. So we were speaking about how when it comes to parenting and the level of dibur, we were speaking about how important it is to verbally express love to our children throughout the day, and that we're okay with. We could always be better. And when it comes to action, okay, so that we more or less have down. We're providing as much as we can that our children have necessities in order to get through the day: food, clothing, and things of that sort. But when it came to the first thing, and that's Machshava, how much do we think thoughts of love for our children? That one doesn't seem to be such a necessity because we can't measure it at all. And that's what we were speaking about last week. Now, a child can hear words of, like thoughts of, a child can hear words on a dibur level of love, and they can experience on an action. But does a child sense when we're thinking thoughts of love about them during the day? Is that something the child senses? If I'm thinking thoughts of love, so because it's not necessarily so, we don't treat it with such importance like the other 2. But what the author began describing to us last week was how essential it really is. And today we're going to see even more, just a little bit, just to finish this, even more of how essential it is to be investing time during the day of having loving thoughts to our kinderlach. So look at the top of Daf Chavtet, on the top of the page that's in front of you. Rav Itamar Schwartz, the author of this sefer, is also the author of the famous Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. He wrote this sefer, and he says like this: "Ata nevaer biktsara et hatoelet haraba sheyesh lehorim hamashki'im bitchum hamachshava odot ha'ahava liyildihem." Now we're going to briefly just speak about the tremendous gifts that come. I guess he's saying that comes to both parents and children when there's a home where parents invest time of thinking love, thinking thoughts of love for their children. כל הורה מכיר את התופעה. Every parent knows of the phenomenon, שפעמים התעלולים של ילדיו מביאים אותו לידי עצבנות וכעס כלפיהם. You know what a ta'alul is? Yeah, mischief, shtiklach, tricks. Every parent knows that sometimes the mischief of a child can bring a person to atzbanut. The atzbanut and kas. Our kids tick us off. I know, it happens. You did it to your parents, your children do it to you, and their children, Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, are going to be doing it to them. It's never been a door where they're like, oh, this generation it didn't happen. This is something, mamish masoret, you know, door le door. Door le door. By doing what? By rebelling? Not necessarily. By being kids. It's what I always say in shul about. It's beyond me that parents bring little children to shul with an expectation that for the 20 minutes they're in shul, they will suddenly have the internal wisdom to act like 30-year-olds. Why? Why do you think that should happen? They're acting their age. They're perfect. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I guess the shilas on the parents have this Indian that they think they walk into shul and they could act like adult, 30 or 40. That's another story, but because kids are perfect, because they're doing exactly what kids do, being kids. And every parent knows this. And every parent also knows that a lot of their mischief and a lot of their shtuyot can bring us to atzbanut and kas, to getting on our nerves and sometimes even anger. Kamuvan, שהשאיפה של כל הורה, the aspiration of every parent, היא lehashkiach את אותו כעס במהירות האפשרית. This word lehashkiach means to somehow figure out a way to get rid and forget and to hide away this ka'as as soon as it comes up. As soon as it comes up, of course my dream, just figure out a way to get, it's what happens sometimes in our head, figure out a way that this shouldn't bother us, that it shouldn't be something that's מעצבן אותנו. אולם, פעמים שכל הניסיונות לעשות זאת עולים בתוהו, but it happens quite often, that all of our attempts, for all of our own internal mind games, where we're attempting to lehashkiach, to get it forgotten, that I shouldn't be indulging in the way that my kids shtuyot press my buttons. All the tricks I have, all the hacks, sometimes they just don't work. And what am I left with? Yeah, my kid's driving me crazy. My kid's driving me absolutely meshuggah. I can't get out of this. My kid's driving me crazy. ואף אם הוא מצליח להסיר מליבו את הכעס על התעלול הקודם, and even if you were able to remove anger from your heart from the last episode of shtuyot that your kid got themselves into, you could already smell התעלול הבא כבר מחדש את רגשי הכעס כלפיו. You know what's waiting for you around the corner. The next zach, the next thing. It's not like, oh my God, look at me. I was able to actually not get angry because my kid did this. I should write the book. I should give the shir. I should go on tour. I should teach the world what it's like. What it's like to actually not get angry at your kid. You call your agent, you're ready for book signings, everything, and while you're on the phone, your kid's like nudging you and pressing on your toes and driving you crazy. Like, stop! I'm in the middle of signing a deal to teach people how to parent. Don't bother me right now, right? This is what's happening. He says, you could sense this. This is already happening. Before you know it, there's the next moment of being a little bit of a shobab that's about to bother you. But he says like this. He says, because let's be honest, those things, that way of planning your day, it won't work. It doesn't work. But what could work in those moments? Meaning your kid is going to be your kid. They're going to do the same, more or less the same things for a long time. And then when they get older, they stop doing those things. And they do different things now that also drive you crazy. Meaning, it's a galgal mistovev. It always goes in there. So he's saying over here, is the is the best strategy? Is it a strategy, the best way to approach this, a strategy of becoming mamish like a quiet inner soul that has conquered all the midot of kas and of anything else you could imagine? Ideally, yeah, but good luck. That's not going to work either. So this, he says, this is what could work. So what could work? So look what he says. אכן כאשר הורה מתרגל לחשוב על אהבתו לילדיו, when a parent gets accustomed to thinking thoughts of love about their children throughout the day, like that's what happens. Like usually, when I think about my children in the day, I'm sending vibes of love. I'm filling my mind with thoughts of love throughout the day. זהו המתכון המוצלח ביותר להשקיט את אותם הכעסים. This is actually the best recipe that could help you deal when legitimate anger may rise. If there's such a concept as legitimate anger. Not legitimate anger, but legitimately getting ticked off. If generally what I'm thinking about is love about my child, then the moments that they get to me, that's probably the best way to approach the moment. Ki leshon pasuk, like the pasuk Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, Ve'al kol psha'im techase ahava. What could, when it comes to like tachlis, what could really change and save a very tumultuous moment? Not solutions, not breath work in the moment. Because the moment it's to fill the day with breathing in and breathing out love to your children, even when they're not in front of you. Dafka when they're not in front of you. You understand where he's going with this? Meaning to say, okay, I'm going to wait till that moment that they get to me, and then I'm going to have this tactic to get over the moment and not fall into anger. He says that's not going to work. But if generally speaking, if the way that I'm normally thinking is thoughts of love, then in moments when it gets really hard, that which is usually in my mind will conquer. Now, in an extreme way, in a very extreme way, I'm always brought back to Rev Leo Dee at the Levaya for his, I don't remember if it was for the girls or it was for his wife, because it was two different, there were a few days between them. First it was the daughters, and then I think a few days later it was Lucy, right? So,
yes.
2 days, I think. Mashukaz, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't the same day, and it wasn't back to back. So he was talking, like he was. I don't know how many of you were there or you heard it, but he was speaking levels of emunah that almost seemed like, and I even spoke to him about this, like, have you lost your mind? Like he was speaking levels of emunah that were, you would think like Rabbi Nachman can speak like this at a levaya. Not someone that lives in our time. He was saying these very, very powerful, giving over these very, very powerful concepts of faith. Bless you. It didn't seem bemet. It seemed like someone slipped him something before he went, which couldn't very well be. But someone maybe gave him a dose of something in order to deal with things, because he was speaking so high about emunah. But then he addressed that also. He said, I know, this probably sounds all crazy. He said, but I learn emunah every day. It's not like now that I started opening a book of emunah while I'm in the hospital. I train myself, meaning I train myself all the time to have thoughts of emunah in me. And he was giving over different classes that he was learning with different teachers. And all these principles of faith he was saying with such clarity. With such clarity, it was so strange. Not strange, it was so, wow, where is he coming from? But he was saying, because that's what I'm normally filling my consciousness with. Some people, when they have to activate faith in moments of distress, that's very hard. Very, very hard. But if you're by default in a state of thinking and learning emunah, then chas v'chalila at times, God forbid, shouldn't happen to any of us. I don't want to go to such a kitzon, such an extreme like his situation. But whatever we have to go through in life, if generally what's going back and forth in my mind are thoughts and Torahs of emunah, then when I really need to hold on to them, it's much more accessible. So on that level, that's how I'm speaking, that's how I'm trying to give over, or what he's saying about thoughts of love for our children. If I have to activate love for my child when they're ticking me off, but I don't think about those thoughts of love during the day, but I heard in the shir that I have to think of sending loving thoughts to my child in a moment of distress, ze lo yelech. It won't go. But if generally speaking, the way that I spend my day is that I'm sending thoughts of love, thinking thoughts of love about my child throughout the day, and that's what's basically hanging out in my consciousness throughout the day, then in moments when I really, really, really need it, it's not so hard to activate, and it doesn't feel fake either. I don't feel like I'm being a fraud, and I don't feel like I'm running away from dealing with the issue. So what's the avoda? What's the avodah lemaaseh? If we just took this right now, what would it be? What do you think? What would be the avoda for today? What does that mean? I mean, exactly that. It's not such a... You see, like we think it can't be that easy. Well, it's not that it's that easy, but it's not that complicated. It means that throughout my day, not just when I daven, but throughout my day, whenever I have a moment to stop, I just tune into thinking thoughts of love that I have for my children throughout the day. That's it. Yeah.
I love what you said last week about just thinking lo muvan me'elav, just tapping into it. It can also be a little bit fun when they are driving you crazy and you go, lo muvan me'elav.
Good luck. Yeah. Nachon. That is not.
Just bringing that into consciousness, like.
I'm just gonna. You want to explain this for those that didn't understand what the concept means?
So, like thinking of your child. And please correct me if I'm nailing it.
No, it's the way that you understood it. So yeah.
So just like during the day, just thinking of my sweet Rachel. Lo muvan me'elav. Like, where does she come from? Like, this is just a miracle of a person.
Right. Right. Lo muvan me'elav. It's not a given that she exists.
No.
They're not givens. It's not a given. Right. So when I have the lo muvan me'elav as my default, and then I have the love that is, Baruch Hashem, filling my zone, my place of thoughts about the lo muvan me'elav, then the moment that Rachel drives you, not style I'm saying, like, obviously, but
it's inevitable.
Exactly. And you were like that to your mom.
Yes.
Yeah, Mindy.
So I'm going to Azamra, because in Azamra he's saying, well, that person did something, but he's like people much further away from me.
Yeah.
So it would be much easier for me to do Azamra with my kids. Okay.
Well, it'd be much easier.
Having tried to practice Azamra on bad people. No, seriously, he says every bad person has something good.
Yeah.
So I tried to focus on it. There was some terrible thing in the news. I was like, okay, I guess he respected his parents. Okay, and he says that raises them up.
Right.
So and I think he's saying the same thing here. If we can think those good thoughts, it's also going to improve their behavior, not just my response.
I mean, it'll improve their behavior, but also maybe not.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to realize that the avoda of Azamra, the success of Azamra isn't did they become better kids versus was I able to not freak out? That's more important.
Right.
Their outcome of how my Azamra, my thinking of good thoughts about them, the successful outcome is not did they not do this again, or did they stop doing the bad thing? It's more who did I become? Who did I become when I could have mamish lost it again and I didn't? That's the avoda.
Right.
Nachon. Okay, yeah.
It could also be helpful to the bad. We notice that, but to notice the good and to verbalize even when it's happening. Whoa, you did this, you did that.
Pointing out the good.
To make that the consciousness, to put that the focus. And if we verbalize, first the child knows that, and then ourselves, we have those thoughts to think about during the day. To find them, everybody can do something right somewhere. You have to just
100%,
find that.
100%.
And you have to mind yourself to notice that as opposed to the opposite.
But sometimes parents can't do that. Because when they look at their kid.
No, but I'm saying like in a calm time, not in
Well,
the
right. So I'm
moments.
saying like certain kids do not give their parents any calm time. There are, and when you hear the nervous laugh, you understand that's a that means 'cause there are children that they are 24/7 on, like just on. It doesn't. I have a 1.5-year-old that's there right now. She's not. She's never. It's on. Like
She's the quietest kid in shul. She never pees.
you should because we put something in the bottle before she goes to shul. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Lisa.
I think it's also if we can step back and say, I'm the best person for this job. God put me here.
Oh yeah.
So I need to do a good job.
That's what you're speaking about is a very. I hope we'll get there in this sefer. If we don't, we have to speak about that. What you're raising right now is Kodesh Kodashim in consciousness. It's one of the hardest things to really believe.
Sometimes we want to quit. Especially if you have that kid who...
Right. I mean, sometimes it's not that we want to quit. We just question we question the statement that you said.
Quit, which is not for us.
We question that statement. We say, are we? Was there a mess up here with this Heavenly Federal Express?
You come to a place. Do you want to do a good job, or do you want to not do a good job?
What's that?
Our children also question.
Right. about us. Right. Not about them.
For them.
Right. They're fine. Were you the right person? Nachon. 100%. These things they could mess with us. And basically the I think that the response would be the same thing that he says over here is like if the way that you naturally conduct yourself is thinking thoughts of love, then even when there are moments when you question whether you were really the best person for the job or your child does, you could answer and say, I don't know if I'm the best person for the job, but I know one thing, that I'm a parent that thinks love for you all day long, every day, or as much as I can. And that seems to be the best approach to not losing it in these moments that are very, people have these moments all the time, mamash, all the time. Yeah.
I don't know how to say this, I'm just going to say that. The outcome, I think we're all outcome driven, and in terms of even this shiur, are we looking for learning as an outcome, as us to be more in tune with being more calm and more feeling, have the ability to parent in the way that we want to parent? Because I don't know if the outcome that our kids feel more love from us, or like really understanding the bottom line when we come to this particular shiur. What is our most outcome? That the end of all the shiur, we're going to get this.
To become a perfect parent that doesn't make mistakes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Right.
I'm in the right shiur.
I was kidding, right? Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay. Got to be careful. It's to learn about our nefesh, our souls as parents, while learning about the souls of our children and how we engage in soulful connections, while realizing that there will be tons of bumps on the way, and to make those bumps smoother, and to be excited about parenting also, and not just feel pressure. Like that's an important thing that I hope comes up from more of the learning that we do. That most of us, when we're in this world of parenting, the general sense is pressure, but there's got to be also this wonderment that must come out of the privilege, especially with mothers more than even fathers, of life coming through you into the world. Like that's got to be wonderment that shouldn't stop right after birth. It should happen continuously. But sometimes when the framing of parenting and the lens of pressure, trying not to be disappointed, although that just clouds the bigger picture of, I think, of why Hashem gave us children. But your question's very good, meaning the outcome, like what's the point? The outcome is if I could walk out of this year and I could really fill my mind and my consciousness with thoughts of love, much more than I was until now. Even though I know I love my child, we all know we love our children, but that I think about it more. And then there's a moment where a kid is a mamish, a menace, right? And then I remember somehow, because I think more about love, about them during the day, so then that moment comes and it doesn't affect me the same way. I don't respond the same way because the love factor is much more conquering than the moment of being irked, right? To me, that's worth all the effort in the world. Like that I don't know. I don't know what's greater than that. I don't know what kind of holier moment you could have in your life as a parent. It's just that the confusing mind would say because we're driven by goals and by outcome all the time. I think we have to make clear what our goal is, what the perfect outcome would be for us, and then work like that. The perfect outcome is not, do my kids become the perfect mensches in the world? That's a nice dream. Do my kids become the calm, appreciative, higher moral children in the world? Those are all nice dreams, but I would call them dimyonos. Those are, how would you say that? Those are fantasies. Or can I tap into what Hashem had in mind when He sent these children to me and work from there with compassion and love? Then that's not a fantasy. That's the most real thing in the world. All right.
I think that, like, my particular love could border on a more like too much love, too much compassion, and then it becomes imbalanced, and then the child doesn't. You know what I'm saying? So I always
that's
feel
why
like what you're saying has so much validity,
right.
and yet
But
I can
that's why
take
a
it,
lot
like,
of
so far, and then
but a lot about this chapter, actually the previous chapter was that when we really love, we also really listen to the Torah of borders. And if we really have compassion on our children, then we're very big on the no-nos. That's real love, right? Okay. Anything else before we move on? Actually, there's one more, just small paragraph here. He says, "Be'ezrat Hashem narchiv lahalan b'nosei hashkacha shel horim be'yaldeim b'tchum Machshava." Where actually, he says later on, we're going to dedicate a lot more time to the whole concept of parents really putting a lot of work in the world of Machshava. Ulam b'shulot shelefaneinu, but in front of us right now, na'asok b'nosei olam ha'regashot. But here we're going to speak about emotions, about feelings. כיצד הוא צריך לבוא לידי ביטוי ביחס ובקשר בין ההורים לילדיהם. This is a very fascinating topic, and this is one of many different opinions, okay? The following topic is obviously how emotional am I with my children? How emotionally expressive am I with my child? What do I share with my child? What don't I share with my child? What do I push my child to share with me emotionally? And what space do I leave them with for them to be their own thing without the need that they should feel they have to tell me everything? So that's a very sensitive subject because many parents feel that their child should share every single thing with them and that you should be besties with your kid. Okay, so this is a shita, this is a derech, this is a mahalach. This is one way of approaching it. Your best friend is not your kid and it's not your spouse. It's your best friend. That's why they're called best friends. Your spouse is your spouse. Your child is your child. If it happens to be that you feel closer, Bezrat Hashem, to your spouse than any other people, that's good. If it happens to be that you feel closer to your children than any other children, that's very good. But that doesn't mean that that's the role of besties. Mm-hmm. Am I making any sense? I know it's very not politically correct to speak like this. That's because people say, what are you talking about? My spouse is my best friend. No. Your spouse, Bezrat Hashem, is your mate. It's and I'm saying this in the holiest way, it's your lover. Your best friend is not. That's a different sugya. It's a different thing. Now, if it happens to be you're doing shlichus in Kathmandu and there's no other Jews around, and you're like, I have to find the best friend. You're not going to, I don't know if you'll find a local that you feel, so shluchim have this Indian, but they have to really figure this out in a very profound way about when you're out there doing nothing in the world, something big in the world, out there in the world of nothing. But in our circle, in our lives, the place of regashot, the place of feelings and emotions, where they're poured out to, how they're poured out to, both from our child and from us to our child, is a big topic. It's a very important one that he's going to take a very serious jab at. We're just going to start it today. We're going to start it for a few minutes because it's very deep and it's very long. So let's see how he speaks about this. We've already explained extensively. שיש יחס של אהבה בין הורים לילדיהם. There is love that exists between parents and children, שמקורו בעצם כך שהם ילדיהם. It's just because there are children, וזוהי אהבה טבעית, שקיימת בכל הורה. Remember we spoke about this? שלב א', the absolute natural love. Naturally, I naturally feel love for my child because they're my child. There's nothing else going on here besides a beautiful, natural emanation of a feeling. ולעומת זאת, but then we also spoke about יש יחס של אהבה בבחינת ואהבת לרעך כמוך, which we said children also fall under that category of when you fulfill the mitzvah ואהבת לרעך כמוך, your children are also under that category, meaning that they fall under רעך. שאותו ההורים צריכים לטפח תדיר, that we always, that parents have to always לטפח.
Nurture.
Is it nurture?
Cultivate?
Cultivate.
Yeah, לטפח means like self-care, we would say, like tipuach atzmi, like they always have to be working on.
Ta'un tipuach.
It always needs to be worked on. וכמו כן, יש צורך לטפח את האהבה הטבעית לאהבה עמוקה יותר. Also the natural love, to go deeper with it. Go deeper with the natural love. אכן, האהבה מסוג השני, the second type of love we spoke about, אינה קלה. ליישום בין הורים לילדים. It's very hard, he says, to ליישם, to activate the love between parents and children that has to do with ואהבת לרעך כמוך. That's not so simple. We're going to explain this. Al menat leva'er zot, in order to explain what we just said, he's going to return now to an example of love between two people. Nashuv ledugma shel ahava ben bnei zug. Love between a couple. Sham hadavar mitnahel bekalut yachasit, וזאת מכיוון שבני הזוג מתייחסים לפחות ברוב המקרים, האחד לשני באופן שווה. This second type of love of ואהבת לרעך כמוך that exists between a couple, generally, and not always, there is a masechet called Gittin for a reason, but generally speaking, the way that love is able to be expressed between a couple is that they see each other more or less equally. Not that they're exactly the same people, but that they're in the same parsha. A spouse, a husband and wife, where they're at in life is the same parsha. They see each other, this is where we're at. We see each other equally. You can see where he's going with this, right? ולכן הדיבור ביניהם מתנהל בצורה ישירה, עד כמה שהוא אכן נעשה בצורה נכונה, and hopefully, and this should be a big tikkun for people that are not holding in this, but when you speak to each other that you don't really feel is holding in the same place as you, you feel like they're lower than you, you could hear it in the speech. You talk down to people, even if you like them, but they're, in your eyes, not shavim, they're not equal to you. The way you speak to them, you could hear it. But the reason he says why it works with couples, this second type of love, is because we see each other that we're more or less in the same parsha in life, and we're in the same stage in life. We're shavim. We're ki'ilu in the same place. And ubikvot kach, because of this, יותר קל לבנות את הקשר והאהבה ההדדית ביניהם. That's why it's easier to build the connection and the mutual love that exists between them when you feel like someone's in the same place as you. לעומת זאת, obviously, look where he's going, כאשר הורים מעוניינים לבנות קשר דומה עם ילדיהם, when parents want to build a similar type of relationship with their children, what's the hardest thing about this? What do you think he's going to say? Why is it so much harder to do this with children?
They're not on the same level.
Because they're not. Because it's simply not the same thing, meaning it's not, I don't look at them, when I say they're not on the same level, the thing is what happens to me naturally is that I look down at them because they are lesser of something. They're on a lower level than we are, or where they're at a different stage in life. But that is so dangerous, because that can bring out of you this like, you know, shev b'sheket, quiet. You don't know what life's about, right? Oh, you think you know everything? You ever hear those statements parents say to kids? Well, let's wait. Do you know what the world is like? You think you know everything? You've seen it all? So he says over here, this is what happens, why it's so difficult to build that like mutual love relationship with children, because we don't see them like eye to eye. We don't see them as if they're equals. But it's also not our fault. You know why? Because in the house, what needs to establish is that there is authority. So if there needs to be, if authority needs to be established in the house, is there a chance for this type of love to be nurtured? Is there a chance for this type of love to be expressed and be taken to the next level? Let's see what he says. לעומת זאת, כאשר ההורים מעוניינים לבנות קשר דומה עם ילדיהם, מכיוון שלצורך המשמעת בבית חייב להיות יחס של עליונות מצד ההורים, since there needs to be discipline in the house, so there also needs to be elionut. It's an interesting choice of word here. Elionut means a higher authority. Okay? וכבר הערכנו למעלה לבאר שאף זה צריך להיות במינון ובאופנים הנכונים. We already explained that authority that must be also has to be filled with gentleness. It has to be filled with sensitivity. לכן, בחלק מהמקרים, therefore sometimes הקשר הופך להיות כיחס של בעל הבית ופועל. It's funny, he says this, but it's true. He says, therefore sometimes what ends up happening in the house is that the relationship becomes, you're the owner, you're the boss, and there's a poel, there's a worker in the house. ובחלק של הפתיחות הרגשית, and when it comes to some area of the emotional development, יש תחושה בבית של עליונות מצד ההורים. There is this higher, I don't know even how to say this over here, but...
Superior.
Sorry?
Like a hierarchy. No?
Well, here you're saying יש תחושה בבית של עליונות מצד ההורים when it comes to to emotional development. Also, meaning, when it comes to authority in the house of what goes, what doesn't go, like so many times, so often parents ask me about, listen, one of my kids doesn't keep Shabbos anymore. We have other kids in the house that do keep Shabbos. So what should we do when the kid's home for Shabbos? When the kid that doesn't keep Shabbos is home for Shabbos, what are we supposed to do? Because we don't want to, we don't want to make them feel any worse than they already do by being different. But on the other hand, we have other children in the house, and these are shilas that come up all the time, unfortunately. So there needs to be an authority in terms of like, well, what goes in the house? What is the way that you've chosen to build your home and what you believe in, right? That's one level of authority that we're speaking about. But here he's saying, but when it comes to to emotional development of the child, that gets very dangerous if there's this level of authority. Because then what may be conveyed to your child on an emotional level is the way that you're emotionally feeling things. Shev b'sheket. Don't feel the way you're feeling. There's ways you feel. Look at our house. There's ways that you're supposed to feel. See, when it comes to things I'm supposed to be keeping and doing, that's one level where there needs to be an authority in the home. Otherwise, there's no home. It's not a home. It's camp. I don't know what it is. It's free for all. It's nothing like that. I just want to say, because I'm in this parsha so much, shul is exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. You're not left with a shul if the shul is just meant to be a place where whatever it is you want to do, just do it. This is the place where you're not left with the shul. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not a beit tefillah to Elokim with kivun. The kavana means direction, right? So over here, what he's beginning to say is that when it comes to the spiritual development of our child, forget about our child's expressing their emotions. When do we stop expressing our emotions of natural love to our children? What age does that happen?
Never.
Really? Never. The Mashiach should be here. If that was true, Mashiach should be here. We don't realize it. These things get hushed. I'm not talking about coochie, like when they're like, how long do you still keep on doing that to your kid? If they're 12 and that's how you're say goodbye to them when they go to school. Like even like today, my 9-year-old makes me turn off whatever song I'm playing in the car before we get to the school and the door opens, so that no one should hear what song it is that we're listening to in the car. Even if it's her favorite, it's like, wow. And it's great. I love it. It's cool. I choose your battles. This is not something that you should be working on with your kid. It's fine. So look what he says here. Nasbir et hadvarim. Let's explain the ways. We're just going to do a little bit of this. Kol hore yivdok et atzmo. Every parent has to ask himself, Ad eze gil hu mishtadel lomar leiladav ani ohev otcha. That's what we're talking about. When these, I remember one of the I remember when I was first dating Bina, so I heard her. One of the moments I knew like this is going to be okay. It's going to not just okay. This is like what I want is that I heard her get off the phone with her mother. She was an adult, a young adult, and she said, "I love you too." And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't believe that was like as important to me as I didn't realize how important that was to me, that when you say goodbye to your mother at that age, that you still say, I love you, or I love you too. And it was like a shock to my system, like, wow, why is that so, why am I feeling so good right now? Because these are, I don't know, certain things become, are whatever, for each person it's something else. But that was a very strong thing. At what point do we continue to point out and say, I love you? And even if it doesn't sound the same, but the general thing of saying to our children, I love you. Kamedumeh שהתשובה תהיה, would seem, now remember the circles that he's writing this book in, okay? He says not so much our circles. You know where he lives, he's in Kiryat Sefer. It's a little bit more intense there, right? שככל שהילד מתבגר, כך האמירות מהסוג הזה הולכות ופוחתות. The older the kid gets, the less that these statements are said. That's what he's saying. And the truth is, in some cases, when the kid gets a little bit older, and you keep on saying, I love you, and the kid at a certain teenage, it gets a little bit uncomfortable too, so maybe we say it less. I don't know.
Oh, you just stopped for a few years.
And do you ever go back to it though? You do, when? You stop between 14 and 17 and then you go back? Oh, you're saying it happens.
It can happen.
It can happen. You stop 15, come back 18. And then they start dating, and then it's I love you, I love you, I love you. Yeah.
I have one kid that, he's going to be 39. I tell him I love him, but he doesn't always return it. But as much as I tell him, sometimes he'll say, I love you. But that will be like, I'm not expecting it, but it's like nice when it comes.
Right. We're going to speak about the danger of when you say I love you only to hear back I love you too is very, no, I'm not saying that's what you're, God forbid. That's a whole story, by the way. That speaks volumes. When you say I love you, and really it's only to hear back I love you too is a very dangerous place. We'll hopefully get there as well. Bekach, we're in the middle of the second paragraph, Bekach, bishlav mesuyam, at a certain stage when I love you stops being said, the way it was when they were a kid, הקשר הרגשי בין ההורים לילדים הולך ונעלם. So the emotional connection between parents and children begins to fade away. בדיוק ההפך מהצורה הנכונה בה צריך להתנהל הבית, which is exactly the opposite of the way that a home should be functioning. כולנו מאמינים, we all believe, שכל אדם מורכב מגוף ונפש. We're all dancing this dance of body and soul. All of us, we all believe that. יתרה מכך, even more than that. פשוט וברור לכל בר דעת, it's also clear to us שהחלק העיקרי אצל האדם הוא הנפש. That what's a more important part of a person? Their body or their soul? Soul, because that's what lives forever. But I'm just going to ask you, when it comes to feeling like good parents, if I asked you, did you prepare food for your children in the morning? And you say, of course. And then I ask you, did you connect your child with their inner soul and let them know that your soul sees their soul before they went to school? You look at me like I'm insane, right? Don't worry, that's not the expectation. I don't do that. That's not what we're holding. But in the subconsciousness of parenting, that must be there. That my role in this world is not just to provide for my child what they need to get it through the day physically, but it's to hopefully attach them to their own neshamas, to their own souls, that I see their soul, that I'm invested in their soul. That's a big thing. It's not just left for rebbes. Parents that say, I leave all that spiritual stuff for school. That's a scary thing. Until even when we'll have a dream school one day, it's not what Hashem had in mind by giving us these neshamas. You take care of sandwiches, and they take care of neshamas. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So we all know the chelek ha'ikari is the soul. Vehine, ha'chaim b'bayit, life at home, mitnahalim b'diuk b'tzura hafucha, is absolutely opposite. B'tchum ha'asiyah v'hashkacha b'guf, when it comes to doing and to investing in bodily needs, torchim harbe me'od avru ha'yeladim, you'll do anything for your kid. Your kid needs shampoo, you'll get it. Your kid needs milk, you'll get it. Your kid needs socks, you'll do whatever you can to make sure your kid will have socks. Meaning all these things you'll do. Makpidim tamid shachulza tiyeh nekiya, making sure they have clean clothes, hana'alayim yihu shlemot. I guess not everyone has, he's saying holes in shoes, like dvarim chashuvim b'fnei atzmam, ulam b'nefesh shelahem. But when regarding our kids' souls, shu hachelek hachashuv biyoter, which is the most important element, Aforim shemashkiim bekach, even parents that do invest in this, בדרך כלל אינם נותנים לזה את המשקל האמיתי והראוי. They basically do not really give the proper and most suitable attention to this. It's amazing. We could give our kids everything they need physically, and when it comes to the soul, to their regash, even to their regashot, to their feelings, if we didn't do that good of a job, we try to not beat ourselves up. But what happens if I only gave my kid a little bit of food, or food that gave them a stomachache? What would I think about myself? Huh? I'd feel horrible. I'd feel guilty. But it doesn't work. It's such a weird thing. I don't have a way to monitor this when it comes to what I'm doing to their neshama. L'tov or l'ra. That's what's so tricky. It's such a tricky thing. There's so much to say about this. I'm going to say one more thing about this because this really needs its own. We're going to continue on this next week, but I just want to say one more thing about this. I think this really is your question, if I'm going to be honest. To teach parents about the importance about making sure they take care of their children's bodily needs, you don't need a shiur, you don't need a book, you need to be alive and not brain dead to know that those things are essential and vital. But because our world is such a tricky world, the modern world we live in, the influences on our children, it's such a tricky thing over here. Because we've consciously chosen to live in a modern society. With all the spirituality that's here, it's a modern world, right? We live in a modern world. Modern, what I mean is modern meaning like very much in this, what the world calls the world, with influences. And obviously, outer influences that aren't coming from Torah-based values, right? And most of us were brought up like that as well. It's not that we're rebelling by doing this. It's just the way we were raised also. It's not a rebellion, God forbid. It's the way we were, you know. And at a certain point, I think, in our parenting, we have to ask a very hard question. And that is, I know I got the goof down. I got the body needs down, meaning I'm not worried about that. Hashem should bless us with parnasa. There should always be enough food and clothing and everything my child physically needs. Amen, keni ratzon, for all of us. And he says, dvarim chashuvim biyoter. These are very important things. There are parents that neglect this as well. Hashem yirachem. So on that level, our tzibur actually excels. It's an amazing thing. His tzibur less excels in this, actually. Right? Our tzibur, what makes us this, you know, not this community. I'm talking about. You understand what I mean by our tzibur? Like generally speaking, it's nothing to do with living in this street or just the worlds we chose to live in. Those things we have down. I think we have more than down. We give our kids way more than they actually need at times. That's another thing. Way more. But at a certain shlav in my parenting, I want to really be bold enough to ask myself, where am I? What areas in my parenting have I been okay with consciously? I'm going to say a hard word. Please don't get mad at me. Consciously poisoning my child's Yiddish neshama. That's a heavy thing, right? That's a very heavy thing. And because you have to realize there's a price to living in this modern world. As the great things that it has to offer, I can't bank on the fact that they'll be able to lift up, like the Baal Shem Tov would speak about, that they'll be able to lift up the sparks from everything that comes up on YouTube and know how to do tikkunim with raising spark. That's a very tall order, and an order that's not really fair to our children, to put on our children, right? At a certain point in my parenting, this is the question I have to ask myself. Body, I got that down. Neshama, soul, emotions, the feelings, those things, that's the area that I want to, say like, okay, am I ready to look that in the eye? Now, I've thought about these, I think about these things like all of us all the time. And the era that we live in, where most of our children, because of the environment that we live in, have phones, it makes the real work nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. We have to talk about this, and we have to look at it, and not be scared, and not get nervous that we're going to feel so guilty. We didn't rebel. We didn't do anything wrong. Well, maybe one of two of you, for you, it's a rebellion to live in this community. I don't know. For me, it's not. For most of us, it's not a rebellion. It's more or less like a natural progression of where we came from, and in a nice way, with taking all the good. In a nice way. For some of you, Baalei Tshuva, it's a rebellion to a different side. You rebelled against the morals some of the morals you grew up with and chose to be here. But for most of us, we're now at this shlav in life, we're kind of like in it. We're filled with love of Torah and simcha and Shabbos and all the good things. And we're also filled with loads of influences that have nothing to do with the shorish neshama of our children at all, whatsoever. And that's when it starts to get really tricky. But it's okay to point these things out. He doesn't. I took his words to not a completely different place, but it's what I'm seeing that's coming up for this, where we would never, God forbid, allow anyone to physically hurt our child's arm. If I saw someone that's about to hurt my child's arm, I'd kill them. All of us would. You'd kill them. But why is it that I'm okay with being in the question regarding my child's soul? How could that be? Where does it come from? So this is some heavy stuff.
Most important.
It's heavy stuff. Yeah, but you all look like, it's funny, like you all look like you're sitting shiva right now as I'm talking. I don't want it to, I know, but I don't want it to, I know, but the thing is, you have to understand, when we speak about these things, if you start feeling like you're sitting shiva, that means that the Satan is conducting the way that you're approaching the topic. No. Have the Baal Shem Tov let you approach the topic. Have Rabbi Nachman come and take you on a stroll through these stuff. Don't worry. Hashem knew what he was doing when he sent us to this door with these children. He knew what he was doing with having us live in these types of societies and communities. Akol beseder. But let's ask those questions with pride, with holy pride. Right?
Is there solutions?
She's back to solutions.
I'm back to solutions because
Yeah, Eva.
I think we all love solutions, and that's important. And I think there are some things that we can take away that are very practical from this. But I think really like a huge part of this whole shiur and this whole thing is that you're working on yourself as in this role as a parent, and that's it. So much of parenting is looking at yourself in different situations, and not necessarily about like what should my child have done or but like, you know, having control over yourself and your response and how you react to that. And if you're working on yourself and your child sees that you're working on yourself, then that's like the best model that you could be for them. And you know, if like you tell them that you're going to this shiur, like, oh, I'm going to this shiur and I'm learning about like this, you know, about parenting, and like that they know that you're working on yourself.
Yeah.
That's a really that in itself is like super valuable for you, and then super valuable as a model for them.
Mm-hmm. Chazak. That's very good.
I think it also builds a hierarchy thing. Like meaning that whole of the house, like I'm the boss, you're the kid, you need to learn, you have to stand in line, you need to respect. But when you're showing them that you're constantly working, like actually shockingly, one of my kids was like, Rav Shlomo gives shiur to the women. And I was like, how long have you been?
Who knows
like,
what they discover.
When you show them that you have what to learn, what to, not perfect, but maybe perfection is impossible, and I admit that, but I would be better, and put your socks away, and when you daven, mean it, or just daven, but either way, like.
Nachon.
And that shows that I'm not like I'm the king, I'm the best, and no, like.
But I'm still.
I'm running for the king. I'm trying to be the king.
But in the meantime, I'm also still.
Right.
Hashem chose me to be the mother of the house, and I have to conduct order.
Right, like see, I'm going to shiur, so you also can try. So I'm trying, and you're trying, and
We're all trying, yeah. But to maintain the balance of both authority while you're showing you're equal in the area of trying is a big chap. It's not so simple.
But that might also be their way of like, oh, they're not being like, I know everything and I'm the boss.
Right.
They're also like trying to make better so that
that's very special.
Maybe they actually do know something. Better than you.
Maybe they do know something. Amen. Maybe we know something. B'ezrat Hashem.